So I want to find something out. Who'd you guys rate more? Ichinose or Kei? Also, let me know what novel I should talk about next. Anyway, so for the past few months I've been reading Classroom of the Elite after watching the anime, and I feel like it's one of the best stories I've experienced. I've read over 15 volumes of books total at the time of recording this, and I don't regret a single second. Now, if you asked me at the beginning if I would read over 10 volumes for a story, I might have insulted you. I'm not kidding. But here I am trying to tell you guys to do the same thing. If you want to know why you should read it, there's so many things which I'll talk about later, but the main reason is because it's the highest selling light novel series in both Japan and in the West.
My source is that I made it the fuck up.
For real though, it's at least in the top 10 I think, don't quote me. But to give you a quick rundown of the story.
The story follows the perspective of Kiyotaka, a quiet and unassuming boy, who is not good at making friends and would rather keep his distance but possesses unrivaled intelligence. He is a student of Class D of the Tokyo Metropolitan Advanced Nurturing School, which is where the school dumps its inferior students. After meeting Horikita and Kushida, two other students in his class, the situation begins to change and he starts to get involved in many affairs, and his thought of ideal normal high school life begins to get scattered.
Alright, thanks Kate. Now if you're anything like me, I'm sure that synopsis sounds dry as fuck, but it's one of those shows that's really hard to describe to someone because of how simple it sounds. But it's not simple in the least bit. Basically, all students are put in classes from A to D depending on various factors that deem them worthy students or misfits. But you're not stuck there forever. Students can earn points and use them for anything in the school, even to change classes, but there's a lot more that goes into this. Now the entire core story is like being affected by Kyoka Sugetsu, where nothing is really what it seems. But I guess, let me just tell you what makes the novel so fucking good. I love almost all the characters in the story, and there are even ones that I love to hate. Some of them are able to conflict the reader on how they should feel about them, and some are able to just win you over with one moment. And what I like most about them is that they're not all stagnant. The authors made it a point to develop all the main and main side characters to the point that if you were to compare their personalities and traits in previous volumes, you'd think they were different entirely. The characters that you're meant to hate are characterized in ways that make you feel like you would hate them in real life. Some have reasons for their actions which can be valid, but others are just not of the right mind. Others that in the beginning seem very unlikable are able to change and they become valuable characters to me. To not give too much away, I can honestly say that pretty much any character you hate in season 1 or like the first 4 volumes, you would end up liking by the end of season 2. Well, I said season 2 because the trailer showed scenes from volume 4 all the way to 10, so I guess that's what I'm basing it off of. The world is nothing crazy in this story. Like, the students are in this secluded school that has everything like a mall, cafe, karaoke, cinemas, sports arenas, everything. So the students are not allowed to leave campus till they're expelled or they drop out. But it's not bad because they have everything they need. Now what I like most about it is that even though it's a high school, it set the students up to be able to put to use different strategies with the system that's in place, the point system. So 1 point is equivalent to 1 yen, and the students have various ways of earning points either through exams, tests, trades, or even through sports or class activities. The way it's described is that you can use points to buy almost anything in the school, so it allows for people to do and get away with most if not everything, and it's such a simple setting, but it's like the author was able to push it to the extreme. It's basically just a grand stage for smart people to enact strategies. This story, like I said, seems very simple, but what makes the novel stand out are elements like suspense and intrigue in the stories. It's always able to properly build up to the events at the end of the book in a way that keeps you wondering how it's going to be resolved or what strategies were implemented. Ayanokoji as the main lead is always able to keep his cards away from the reader, and that builds more intrigue in the book because he's not easy to read. There's always the threat of some sort of betrayal or some sort of master plan that we're not immediately aware of, and the author makes the lead up to the revelations always exciting. Basically, Ayanokoji is a liar. You can't trust anything he says to people or anything he even thinks because he's always keeping his cards close to his chest, even away from the reader. It's great how the writer is able to implement that because we see the story from his eyes, but we don't see everything he sees, if that makes sense. And it's great, it makes for a pleasant experience because I'm always surprised by the end. The reason why the suspense works so well is because it's able to help raise the stakes. For a world that in a sense seems more grounded in reality than most anime, the writer has to make it have some stakes or else it's like, what even is the point? Where most shonen characters will have to save the world or romance anime will have to will they get together or not, this story has stakes related to the characters' futures at the school and at times the entire future out of school. Sometimes they're put in situations that not only puts them in physical danger, but it breaks their spirit and mentality. the issues of dealing with PTSD, people wanting to leave their old lives behind and are willing to do anything, and just students living in a world where almost everyone has something they're hiding. Be it a past of abuse, theft, suicide, sexual harassment, bullying, and many more. The power escalation in terms of villains is reasonable to me, and the antagonists are people that you expect to see, and you can tell they weren't just created out of thin air to be antagonists. And there's a reason for that. It's that the world outside of Ayanokoji's sphere is not stagnant. Pieces are always moving no matter what he's doing, so even though we can't always see it, we are sometimes shown the perspectives of other people and what's going through their mind, and what endeavors they themselves are taking. As you get to understand his character and notice his growth, you're able to understand why the obstacles that come his way are the way they are, and the people that they are. Now, not only are the antagonists great, but they're also able to elevate some of the themes in the story as well. And trust me, there are so many themes. Some that are overarching across all the books, and some that just pertain to certain books or shorter arcs, but they're quite satisfying. There's themes of identity that relate to different characters like Kiyotaka and Horikita, themes of free will versus fate, love, power, family. There's so many more, and getting into them will spoil a lot of the story elements. But I'm sure based off all that I've said, you can tell that this story has quite a lot going for it. Now, I guess to give my closing thoughts, I think this is a story that starts off already knowing what it wants to be. Like when you watch or read the first time, some things stick out to you, but then when you rewatch, you're able to see the foreshadowing that you missed. The story is very character driven since it's not superpower based, and the writer is able to make dialogue and thought processes captivate you the entire time. I also think the inclusion of special exams was brilliant because it's able to push the people we follow to different extremes, and it's great to see how each person responds to adversity. The anime did change quite a few things from the novels like they usually do, but not enough to sour the experience for me personally. Although after reading the novel, I was wondering how I ever understood some points when I was watching it for the first time. But I do want to make a lot more spoilery videos on this series, so hopefully you guys are caught up as well. But yeah. Go check out this controversial tier list I did with my friend on the season 1 characters. Let me know what your thoughts are about this series I spoke about, and yeah, I guess I'll catch you guys in the next video.